Well, yeah, appreciate everyone joining today over the noon hour. Hope we find you all well. We've got an exciting opportunity coming up here on this 2021 E-rate cycle. I'm sure many of you folks have heard at least some of what's going on with funds being replenished, which bodes really well into enabling some of the capabilities that are certainly presenting themselves as far as challenges right now with digital learning, providing equitable access out to our learning base, hybrid learning, because as we know, some of this stuff's going to be here to change. So things we're putting in now definitely have an eye towards the future. So thankfully, the folks over at Cisco have been kind enough to help us in today's presentation. We're going to start off with Rachel Soloway. She's going to take us through some of the background into kind of what's going on right now. What are some of the things standing in the way of enabling this remote learning and digital access that we're talking about? Some Cisco solutions and infrastructure that can, again, enable the capabilities we're looking for. And then Andre Miller will take from Cisco's public funding team. We'll go over some of those specific E-rate changes, things to look out for, things to consider as you're planning, best ways to leverage this new pool of funds. And then the Peters folks will finish things up talking about some things that we offer in the way of helping you assess your IT infrastructure, managing it, et cetera, et cetera. So with that being said, Rachel, appreciate you joining us today. I look forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. Excited to work with the Peters and Associates team. My name is Rachel Soloway. I'm based out of Chicago, and I'm the Meraki AE for Northern Illinois and Chicago public sector. So let me get my screen shared for you all.
We can see your screen.
Right?
Yep. We see your email window, so if you want to drag your presentation to there.
Yep, pulling that over. That's what I figured as much. Sorry, the good things about having two monitors is you never know which one it's going to pull up on. So let's see here. All right. Can you guys see that now?
Yep, sure can.
Awesome. Okay. So I'll first start off as I have a few slides to go over and kind of talk through the challenges. And we know there are a lot of challenges IT teams and schools are facing right now in the current situation, on top of the normal everyday challenges pre-COVID that we're dealing with. So I'm going to speak to where Meraki is solving problems, and that's a saying that we use often. It's solving problems, not building feature sets, understanding how we can help education in schools, and talk to a few of those things. Definitely not death by PowerPoint, and then get into a live into the dashboard and show you specifically what I'm talking about in other schools and active networks. So just to quickly start off, Cisco and Meraki we have a mission statement. It's different, similar but different to the Cisco mission statement, and it applies to our accounts that are in the public space that I cover, but also to our corporate SBU, small business, medium business, enterprise, and taking powerful technology, simplifying it so passionate people can focus on what their true mission is. In education, this is learning and enablement for students remotely, securely, keeping them safe, efficient, all of these things in the realm that we in. And different companies, it may be different. Every company has a different mission for generating revenue, and it comes down to something is the year 2020, having a network and security are things that are necessary and needed, and it shouldn't be so complex. So Meraki is the OG or original, if you want to say, cloud wireless network solution provider before even the Cisco acquisition. And from back in 2006 until now where we are today, without the power and the growth and the leading edge technology that Cisco provides, we wouldn't be that business unit within Cisco, that is their number one growth engine. So you might have heard of Meraki, you might be an existing Meraki customer, and you looked at us a few years ago. You might have known us for our wireless, but it's not just wireless that falls into the platform. It's all encompassing of wireless, switching, security, SD-WAN, endpoint management, SaaS application, VoIP application, WAN application, health monitoring, actual physical security, and our latest announcement that happened a few weeks ago, IoT, into the IoT space of MT called Meraki Things. So a funny thing about Meraki, if you're ever on the website, which they've redone, or you've been a Meraki fan or foe, whatever, we use two acronyms. Everyone in IT uses two acronyms, but we use two acronyms for each one of the architectures. And so like MR is wireless, Meraki roaming, MS, Meraki switching, MS is the SD-WAN UTM platform, and MT, the new baby, I like to call it, Meraki Things. And this is huge. It makes sense as to where we're going as a company and what we are hearing and getting asked for our customers. I'll show you when we're in the dashboard, there's actually a button, it's called Make a Wish. And throughout the growth of the Meraki platform to where we are now is listening and growing holistically at the demands of our customers' needs and wants and solving problems for them. And IoT and sensors was something that has been asked constantly. So we have 3 sensors from an indoor space, and the capabilities are endless as to where we're seeing these are fitting and having use cases across all segments, especially in public sector and in schools. But temperature, humidity, water leak, and open door. So any of this stuff, of course, I'm giving super high level. If you want to, schedule additional time with myself and my engineer, reach out to your Peters team, and they will. We can get that set up. It's absolutely no problem. So just again, an understanding of where MT makes sense from. We're talking physical security or monitoring and IoT. As simple as the IT teams that are monitoring and needing to know what's going on in their actual server rooms. You can see MV cameras monitoring to see if there's any negligence or people going in there. You're able to monitor the temperature and humidity and things of that nature on cabinets, and just adding it and making it one more step of management and visibility of control, which just plays into what the Meraki platform does. The additional thing, and just side note, I'm giving you guys kind of an overview, high level of the newest things, and then we're going to talk into specifically K-12. Just wanted to touch on these so really, really quickly. Is MV, again, so it's into the physical security space. If you didn't know, even if you're a traditional Cisco shop or anything else, Meraki has cameras, physical security cameras, and there are several things that make us very different than other players that are in the market. But think of it as in the entire toolbox of very strained lean IT teams, working with operations and facilities a lot of times. This is one more thing that can be joint teams and work together in a single pane, permissions, and follows the theory how Meraki is zero-touch provisioning. It doesn't matter if you have 1, it doesn't matter if you have 400. The scale is there. There is no additional cost when you think about a traditional NVR system. So just wanted to highlight that from our NV space. And then lastly, with Meraki, I always bring this up and talk about it right in the beginning because I feel like it's something that a lot of competitors are misunderstanding is with how Meraki operates on our licensing model. So we operate on a one-to-one. You could call it subscription, you could call it licensing. I mean, you can call it with however you like, but every piece of hardware has a license associated with it and your flavor of time that you want. But the thing that makes it so important, if you're familiar with Cisco, SmartNet, and cases, or any other provider that's out there that, you have to get support or you get a basic level, but if you really need something that is crucial and mission critical on your network, there's all these extra things that kind of aren't talked about. We make it very simple, as we always have from the beginning, is We operate on a one-to-one licensing level, 24/7, 365, top tier, everything pushed out from for features, firmware are included. So point in case our MX customers that were MX customers for using it as a UTM device and doing auto VPN site-to-site encryption and security. One day pushed out the functionality for SD-WAN. Now all of those MX customers now have SD-WAN capabilities. Same thing with something that I'll show you in the dashboard with full stack assurance is what we call. So it is ever changing, it is ever evolving. The worst day your Meraki gear performs is the day that you get it, along with the lifetime warranty on the core architectures. I'll just stop there, and that's another conversation if we want to go into it more. But I'd love to explain what all is included in that, because I feel like that is a huge benefit of being able to pick up the phone, call someone, and talk to in Chicago or San Francisco or London if you're really up really early, and have your problem solved. There's no waiting in time and attack cases and all these other things that go with our other side of the family and how they offer it. So, and an example, like I mentioned with MX, is you're seeing a roadmap of customers that had an MX, and all of the features and firmware that were updated and added over time are with camera and motion retention, and all of these things are added as they're into the platform. There's no someone from Peter Scott isn't calling you, 6 months down the road saying, oh, there was a huge security breach issue. You guys have to, pay another $4,000 for this. That doesn't happen. So as the demands, as the threats, as things grow and change, as technology ever always is, Meraki's right there with you and making sure that you have all of those things. I'm throwing this in here because buzzwords in technology are huge, and education, and you're going to start to hear multi-cloud or SaaS, security, secure access, service edge, and like, what does that mean? You're like, why are you showing this? You think of a traditional way that a building is a hub, data center, whatever, and it branches out. That is no longer the way, especially with schools and what we're seeing with remote learning and consumption and people moving off of MPLS and moving and having SLAs, back to standard internet connections. They're moving to a decentralized solution. That's just naturally what's happening, and we're adapting to it. And does that sound familiar? Like, who has a solution that it doesn't matter, multiple locations, configurations, secure access layer, all tying in? That's what Meraki and Cisco have been doing since day one. That is our platform. I think that there's going to be a ton of information coming out within the next few years, like really getting more into this. But I think it's funny, like internally when we're doing our own R&D and development, that it's like, this is what Meraki has been doing since day one, securing the access layer, no matter the location, end user, multiple sites, integration with Cisco. So if you want to talk more about this, again, reach out to your Peter's team. I'm happy to discuss more. This I won't even talk to. This just again goes more into the security specifically with cloud and Meraki. But the good stuff, why Meraki for K-12? Well, first, it's eligible for E-rate, category 2, of course. So full stack, as a Meraki, and you're using these words that I don't know what you're talking about. Full stack is wireless switching and MX, our core architectures. All three of those are eligible for E-rate funding. We have a grant and public funding resource team. We actually have several of them, but we have a team for it. So if you're having questions or you need anything else, I'm sure Peters has a team that does E-rate as well. We can work with them to answer any additional questions, because there have been a lot of changes this new E-rate cycle, I think for the better, and how you're able to apply for funding. But the biggest takeaway is Meraki is E-rate eligible for funding. It's a Cat 2. So the drivers that we're seeing in school districts, these are kind of the overall the general ones, like that keep IT directors and CIOs wanting to up at night. Network scaling, digital and remote learning that we're running into now, and the restraints and the bottlenecks that we're having, and securing those devices. Analytical, like making sure the investment is there and seeing it measurable in dollars, but also seeing how you're able to track what's being done in the school. And then security and compliance, which I never know why, and when we're putting together, a presentation, security and compliance comes last, because honestly, it's really the first thing. Security and compliance is the most important. Keeping the teachers, safe within the school physically and on the network and the access that they're using. Same thing for the students and the devices, because when I went to school, we didn't have any of that. It's actually, I make a joke, I think of college, and I was at the bookstore buying like $500 worth of books. And I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be nice if there was like a tablet or something that I could just have all of my textbooks on, and fast forward, and that's called an iPad. But this is now a device that's on the internet, and that the internet, there's a lot of different things on there, and you want to make sure that they're using these devices that schools are giving them, or BYODs, to utilize things for school and nothing else. The everyday challenges, again, for the IT team. More and more devices we're seeing. I think the average user, this is a stat pre-COVID, the average user per device per person in the year 2020 has 5 to 7 devices. In the year 2025, is going to be 10 to 15. They're saying per person. Now, this can be mobile, this can be Bluetooth, but all of those things in connectivity, which ties into Meraki and how our wireless functions, are one of the things that we offer from a solution, ties into Bluetooth. Keeping schools secure and the network in lockdown, and having students and teachers having access to the only things that they need to be having access for learning. And of course, doing more with finite resources. IT is the group that is one everyone, of course, goes to when there's a problem. Why isn't it working? What's going on? And oftentimes the group that is getting budget and things cut first versus every other. So how are you taking those dollars and expanding them as much as possible? So then, those are the standard problems that everyone, we're all used to hearing. But now we have new challenges with what's going on with remote learning, and as of what's today, Wednesday? I thought today was Thursday for a minute. Everything is shutting down again on Friday. I think some school districts that were doing waves to kids are now having remote learning again. And so these new challenges of spacing and utilizing outdoor space or other areas of school for social distancing for kids. And Meraki has been helping schools since this started, utilizing infrastructure from an outdoor standpoint and parking lots and surrounding parks and playground areas to be able to deploy and give that additional wireless coverage within the school, as well as we're seeing school districts do that for low income areas, or students or families that may not have internet or great connectivity at home somewhere for them to be able to go and utilize. Same thing with deploying in the school bus setting. MG, Meraki Cellular Gateway, cellular LTE service. We have schools that are putting MGs in buses so that kids can have wireless coverage in the buses, to be able to do school. And this is something, there's a lot of different use cases for this and how that can be utilized. But the fact that we're able to do that, there's a problem that's happening and it's occurring, and we're able to solve that is the key takeaway. So why Meraki for K-12? First and foremost, high density. Meraki created high density with the Meraki mesh network. Again, it goes down to 0 or 100. You scale as you deploy. It ties into the next one. There are no growth hiccups. There are no bottlenecks. That is simply how the technology works in the background, which is, CLI, but with a GUI on top of it. Enterprise safety and security. MX, Meraki Security, integration with Umbrella, and is powered by Cisco Talos, the global threat leader database of threats in 0 days around the world. It's an agency, I think, of Cisco, Palo Alto, and there's like 2 others, and they essentially all share their information together, so that the world is a safer place from an internet and security standpoint. But Cisco is the leader and the largest install and database for that with Talos, and Meraki is powered and run. That is the background of Meraki Security. So you have that Cisco Talos backing. Control, efficiency, and visibility. As I'll show you in a minute when we're in the dashboard, that all of those things are there in a single place. I mentioned you may be looking at wireless, but you have a different manufacturer for switching, a different manufacturer for firewalls. How big is your IT team? What does it look like managing? All of these together, taking a step back holistic in a single place, market-leading technologies, and the amount of visibility and control and time to resolution is bar none, which ties into the built-in tools and the things that you're able to do remotely. With, again, everyone being remote, there's an amount of things that are able and capable within the platform that you can do without having to be on site and actually physically somewhere to find the problem, and can walk someone through, or if there's someone else on site without having to leave and do. So, let's think of a positive thought of, let's think of us all on vacation and someone causes the problem. You're able to open up your laptop on the beach and fix and troubleshoot, and then, everything is good, versus, we're all in lockdown and can't leave our houses. The beach vacation is better. And then lastly, complete endpoint management. So Meraki is Cisco's only MDM solution provider, which ties in wonderfully with the rest of the architectures, but specifically with wireless and MDM Sentry. It is agnostic in the sense of what platforms we can support. We're actually Apple's choice MDM provider, but they won't advertise it because Jamf only does Apple, Meraki does Chrome, Meraki does iOS, Meraki does Android, everything. So even if you have 10,000 iPads and you have 2 Androids, you need something different. But with Meraki SM solution, you can do it all together. So hold on, let's see here. Can you guys see my screen again?
Yes, we can. We've got
Okay, perfect. All right. What was that?
We've got a map. It looks good.
Okay, cool. Yes, this is a map. So this is Meraki. This is live network. All of our networks around the globe, world. I like to make a joke and say that these guys are the deadliest catch in the Bering Sea, but you're asking, why are you showing me this? I want to talk to the breadth and the backing of what Cisco Meraki is. This is not a solution that is. Some people think Cisco Meraki is the leading edge in what we're doing, and there are things that we are, but it's also a company that has been around for decades. And when you think about an investment, you have the comfort of knowing that it's a company that is not going anywhere. And then you can also see the input that it's not just, quite saturated in the United States, but globally, we have customers. So that is what I was showing you. And on the first slide, I think I rattled off some numbers, but we have 2.8 active networks around the world. We have over 8 million active individual devices on those 2.8 million networks. Those are small business customers, those are schools, those are enterprise, those are municipalities, they're everything under the sun, from large to small, all utilizing the same technology. So I was just there, and I preloaded this just because I was telling the Peters team that my Comcast is having issues today. They're doing some kind of install, so I'm operating off of my hotspot. So I wanted to just get some stuff preloaded so there was no issue. But I jumped into Sweetbriar College, their core network, to show in real life what some of the things I spoke to you all about. So right here, this is this bar. Every single Meraki customer has network-wide an organization, and then this builds out. Those are each architectural individually respective. Not one of them requires the other to work or stand alone. But again, tying back to with the more that there is, the more power, the more control, the more visibility, time to resolution that is had. So right here, we're on the client page and on this entire network, and we're seeing, I'm going to move this over a little bit. There we go. You're seeing every single client that's on the network. You're seeing if it is a little green port that's tethered in, if it is this wireless sign, it's wireless, green is good, yellow, something's going on, red is bad, operate as stop sign, very simple, intuitive. And then if there's a little globe, if I find one, that means that it's VPN'd in. I can get and show that later, but that's how you know. So you can search easily by clients that are connected, whether online, offline, what their connectivity type is, what VLAN or a policy or their OS. Very simple with drop downs and radio buttons. But why is this important for K-12? Let's go right here, Alex's iPhone. What you're seeing right here, we literally network-wide went into and now can see Alex's iPhone. We're seeing what his status is, what SSID he's on, what access point and topology, which we'll get to. Not sure why Africa is pulling up right now in the map, but it should show where specifically he is on the map in the building, device type, capabilities, etc. We call this right here full stack assurance at Meraki. Again, tying into the worst day your Meraki gear performs is the day that you get it, that it's ever learning and evolving. This was not here a year ago, maybe even a little bit less, but it's a high level to troubleshoot, to see and pinpoint issues of, okay, here's Alex's iPhone. And now this is, let's see his connectivity on SSID into the AP, if there's any issues, utilization, his uplink information. Okay, we're good. Into his actual wireless, you're seeing the MR model, you're seeing the LAN IP, you're seeing the radio that it's utilizing. From here, you can, and several other places, but also just right here, you can ping the AP or run a packet capture, say this little green check mark wasn't green and it was yellow or red if there was some issue happening. Now you're seeing the connectivity into the switch closet and packets and counts and port health. Into the access layer switch, same situation, into the core switch, into the MX. And so you're getting a high level understanding as to what is happening from the network, and this can be drilled down to even more, which I will do, but it's just giving you an understanding if you're having issues to see right off the bat as to what's going on. You can also see usage and applications that the student may be consuming. Again, this is a real active live Meraki customer network. So I can only see certain things, but you know, we see that Alex is utilizing Netflix, and maybe that's causing a huge problem. So maybe that's a rule that the school wants to implement on in a user group and tag and add users to a group that doesn't allow Netflix, or throttling it down, completely block it. Whatever you want to do, you can do that simply right there. And this, as I mentioned, kind of talking to that, you can add him into a policy. If he's a repeat offender of not doing the things that he should be at school or while he's on the network, and you can whitelist, blacklist, or block him and send him a message, and it would say, come CIT, etc., which can be a little diabolical, but it's there for you, and you can dive down. Network information, remotely ping his device, But this is the really, really cool part right here. You can change the search, custom route, but has individual dropdown of this user's connections and issues if they're having problems from a high level. So if they're having problems where they may be happening, oftentimes, it's authentication issues, but it looks like there may have been some security problems or concerns that maybe be wanting to look into. And then if he is connecting into problematic APs. All of this information too throughout the dashboard in Meraki. Same look, same feel, monitor, configure, monitor, configure, monitor, configure, is exportable information for you to be able to take to, boards or other teams within the school district. So there's that. The other thing that I want to quickly touch on is the ease of setting up SSIDs within the Meraki dashboard. Actually, wait, let me take that back. One moment, I had a different thought that I like better. We'll go back into Alex's iPhone, or we'll go to someone else's user device. And I want to show you specifically topology. So now we're in someone's MacBook, Maddie's MacBook. As again, looks like what I just showed you, but access point, click topology. See, her map is actually showing up. She's not in Africa. So we were on a client, we were on Maddie's MacBook. Maddie keeps having issues. We see what AP she's on. Click topology, and now you're seeing a full network topology of the school. The circles are APs, and it'll give you information. You can click into those, but high level, again, how many clients are connected into them. Diamonds are non-Meraki architecture. So this is a proprietary solution. Information ties into the ease of what Meraki is. But you can manually add information in. Note all of the Meraki network around the globe globally. There's no Cisco networks in our core. It is all powered by our own gear. But our engineers do have some Cisco in labs and stuff like that, and you can see them in the network, and it'll show up in something like this. So like this specific school has something from Juniper, and they've manually inputted information. But continuing on, what I'm getting to is topology. We clicked, we're scrolling, we're looking for the highlighted right here piece of hardware, that MR33H, that Maddie was connected to on her MacBook that was having issues. So within 2 clicks, we were on her, we were seeing what was happening, we saw full stack assurance, we saw the full diagram of the network to see if there was any connectivity. Green is good, yellow something's going on, red is bad. And now we're seeing in this specific AP, and we're having a full summary. This port information is going to populate, the uplink information is going to populate. We're seeing clients that are on there. Again, high level information from a security standpoint. Can go into port configuration, event logs, remote troubleshooting tools that I spoke to. You can run packet captures on every single piece of Meraki architecture. And then lastly, because I think I'm getting close on time, I can talk for hours and hours. I'm sure you guys figure that out, is switching. What makes Meraki different, or what we have been doing since day one, is what we call virtual stacking, which is the ability to update switches regardless of location, regardless of multiple ports, regardless of location, push out updates across an organization within a matter of 10 seconds. So say there's a VLAN update, say that there is a configuration or something that you need to be changed, that can be done with what we call remote stacking. But over high level, you're seeing all the switches that are in the network. Again, the colors that I mentioned, you're seeing the names of where they're at. This little wrench over here, customizable throughout the dashboard. You'll see this of putting in information that's important to you and what isn't. Let's go into a data center 1 switch. We can see the location where it's at, connectivity ports, can hover over the ports to see the power and information, and we can go into those specific ports, and if we want to configure them. And you can see them all pulling up. And again, as I mentioned, if you need to do multiple updates on multiple places, you simply click the ones that you're wanting to do, you edit it, push out those updates, update, and done. Our dynamic routing, if that's what you're running. Yeah, that is it. So pause 1 second and let me jump back to just a reiteration of the Meraki platform in schools and what we're using. Cisco's Cloud Network Solutions Group, 100% cloud managed. All you need is access to either your phone on your app, which has full capabilities of changing and configuring and monitoring the network, or your network, full complete compliance, automation, integration with APIs, backed by Cisco Talos, full network, not just specific and market leader in one aspect, physical security, network security, wireless, SD-WAN, IoT. Those are the things to think about when you're looking at projects. Is there someone that does all of these best very well? And personal opinion, and actually believe it, is that yes, that Meraki does. Just the quick marketing slide of some of the schools, not even touching the brethren that are Meraki customers. Again, I cover Northern Illinois and Chicago, and any guys that are interested in connecting and wanting to talk to existing accounts in the territory, in the area, I'm in Chicago, happy to offer those up. So that is where I will end and say thank you, Scott and team, for letting me talk a lot today.
Rachel, thank you very much. That was very insightful, and I think it gave folks an opportunity to see why so many educational entities are choosing the Meraki platform. Hopefully, folks saw some things that can help them in their environments as they consider some refreshing. There are a lot of old infrastructures and architectures out there today. We're looking at providing the access that's required and the level of management and the fewer resources to management all this stuff. Very capable platform to consider. So moving along to our next section with Andre Miller, E-rate 21 through 25 is going to give us, it's going to give school districts and libraries a pretty good opportunity in funding wise to acquire some of these capabilities and some of these platforms. A little bit different, continuation from the last modernization. It's very still focused on internal connections, switching and routing, and wireless access and firewall. But the new pool of funding, some new capabilities, some new roles. So with that being said, Andre, I don't want to steal your thunder. If you could give us an overview of how folks can take advantage of this new wave of funding and what they should be thinking about. And we can't hear you.
Sorry about that.
There you are.
Most common words this year is that you're on mute.
Isn't that the truth?
Not the truth. Hi, my name is Andre Miller. I'm a public funding advisor. I support Illinois, and so that's why I'm here today. Public funding advisors really help our sellers and our customers learn more about grants and about E-rate and about bonds, but I'm going to focus on E-rate because that's been something that I've done a lot on. So basically what I want to share with you briefly, following up after Rachel's excellent presentation, is some changes for the upcoming E-rate year 24. This is what we're in now, is E-rate year 24. And if you ever wondered what that meant, it's the 24th year of the program. It's for fiscal year 2021. Basically, E-rate is a federal subsidized program that we all pay into through the Universal Service Fund. It's for schools and libraries. It attempts to close the digital divide, which you can see is quite evident in today's times. So there have been lots of changes. What's new this year is that there's been at least $8 billion in funding available, and that the 5-year budget cycle has been reset. And that's a big deal. What that means is prior to the modernization, there used to be a 2-in-5 rule and there was no set budget. Now there's a budget based on a site's enrollment or a library square footage. And you can see the calculations on the screen, 167 times the enrollment, and the library is 450 square footage. And you have 5 years to use that budget. These numbers are more realistic because depending on your discount percentage, also it gives you a chance to really take advantage of the E-rate program. One of the things that's nicer this year, year 24, is that the funding floor has been increased. And what that basically means is that if you don't meet the requirements, if you have low enrollment or small square footage, and the minimum, if your enrollment doesn't get to the $25,000, for example, or your square footage doesn't get to the 25,000, the minimum that you can request is 25,000. So pretty much smaller schools can now take advantage of the E-rate program. $25,000 is still, it depends on equipment, but it's significant enough to get you started, because remember, E-rate is a subsidized program. It's a discount program, and it's with the understanding that you have additional technology budget to meet things that aren't covered by E-rate. One thing I want to stress is that a lot of folks are upgrading their Wi-Fi within the next 3 years, and 98% say their Wi-Fi network is mission critical. And as we can see during these times, again, it is mission critical. I don't have it in. Hold on. Sorry about that. So from a Cisco perspective, routers, switches, wireless access points, and controllers, they're all E-rate eligible, and they come with Cisco's bundle warranty offer. There's also DNA Advantage and DNA Essentials. And then there's basic firewall functionality is eligible, and this new product, SIG Umbrella, is 33% eligible. I just want to go through everything with Cisco is done through their SKUs, the EDU SKUs. So this is just a high level schematic of how this works and what the high points of it is. So that's here. I'm going to give you a resource list at the end of this presentation. The EDU SKUs cover switching and wireless product families, and this is not an exhaustive list. This is just letting you know, just to give you a sense of, again, from a Cisco perspective and the product line. And then DNA Advantage and DNA Essentials are also 100% E-rate eligible, for switching and wireless. And I just wanted you to see that. Again, here, just what DNA Essentials and DNA Advantage would cover. High level, this presentation is going to be available after for you to have as a resource. But just want you to see what's available when you get DNA Advantage and DNA Essentials, okay? And then as a service provider, as a partner, there are some best practices that you need to be aware of. What's allowed, highlighted in green. The thing is, when you're doing these things, it's allowed, but you have to also ensure that the applicant understands that one of the big things with E-rate is that it's a fair and open competitive bidding process. So if you're doing this, they're doing this for all of their competitors. They're not just doing it for you. So as a service provider, you just want to ensure that they understand that also. And what's prohibited, as you can see here, very specific things that are prohibited. You know, you don't want to be writing RFPs or giving them the language or anything like that. You don't want to give yourself an unfair advantage, because one of the things with E-rate is that you have to keep all of your documentation, the applicant, for at least 10 years once they're funded. And at any point, you could be, you can be quote unquote, I'm going to just say audited, but they call them reviews or anything like that. And you have to be able to prove that you did everything correctly. And worst case scenario, if they found that there's a violation, the applicant would have to return the money. So you never want to be in that situation, and that can take a long time. So even though today you're doing all this stuff, you got to think about the future and why and the way this thing is set up. So I just wanted to highlight that also. And then these are Cisco E-rate resources. There's E-rate Partner Central. There's CiscoErate.com, product eligibility. There's the Cisco Com site. We do a lot of things to ensure our partners are aware of what's happening, news you can use, and you can sign up to our monthly Cisco roundtables. And then if there's ever any questions, I know because I man this email account also, you can send your general E-rate questions to erate_inquiries@external.cisco.com. And there's tons of other places you can also E-rate email information. My goal was to just give you a high-level view of what's happening with E-rate this year, so I think I've done that. But if there's ever any additional questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. This is my contact information. I'm a public funding advisor. I help our clients working with our partners ensure that they're tapping into this resource. Thank you so much for having me here.
Andre, thank you very much. So a couple of things to reiterate. So, you know, right now it's kind of due diligence period. You know, school districts and libraries, this is your chance to think about how you're going to leverage E-rate funding, think about the needs of your environment, have folks like Meraki and Cisco, you know, out to talk to you, evaluate what they bring to the table, how they can solve your challenges, what they're doing for other educational entities. And this is the period that we can do that. Peter's has the resources both internally and certainly directly from Cisco and Meraki to come out and have these conversations, take a look at your current infrastructures, and in a lot of cases, even provide some demo units, you know, switching, access points, security cameras. You know, not all those things are going to be E-rate eligible, but speaking typically from a solutions perspective, we can help align it. One other point, you know, the 5-year, and Andre, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but basically there's going to be a 4 or 5 year period to spend this this allocated, you know, budget per school. Every school is going to be different in the amount of funding that they get. But from what I understand, one of the things is, you know, if you're refreshing equipment, that equipment's got to be 5 years or older. Is that right?
You can refresh at any point. Two different things. The budget is for 5 years. The budget is for 5 years, right? An applicant can choose to refresh at any point in time. It's what makes sense, but they have to correlate it with their budget, their C2 5-year budget, and what's available, and so forth and so on. See, in the prior time, it used to be a 2 and 5 rule. You can only do it every it was more alluding to what you're referring to. It has to be over 5 years old, and then you can do it again. Right. That's no longer the case. It's just based on the time frame for to expend your budget. Okay.
So yeah, it does. So the point is, though, you know, identifying the life cycle, you know, of your products, what makes sense to prioritize, you know, as far as, you know, best utilizing the funding that you do have. So understanding, you know, just the overall life cycle period of those products is something we can also help with. So definitely appreciate it, Andre. We're gonna stick around for some Q&A past the 1 o'clock. We're going a little bit over on time, but Andre has agreed to stick around with us, as well as Rachel, to answer any questions. I'm going to shift over to Adam Gaston-Smith from our team. You know, another component within the category 2 components as managed internal broadband services, which was, newer a couple of years ago to the E-rate program, where you can actually get some funding toward a third party, managing some of the Category 2 covered components, things like monitoring of internal components, doing some extended managed services. So Adam, why don't you fill in some of the capabilities that Peters has in that area so folks can understand that before they go out and make the request this year.
Sure. Thank you, Scott. If you don't know me, my name is Adam Gaston-Smith. I'm responsible for Peters and Associates support and managed services offerings. So just like Scott said, I want to make sure that folks understand where Peters and Associates is helping other districts to manage their internal broadband services and what's eligible. So from an eligibility standpoint, for Category 2 devices, switches, Wi-Fi routers, what we talked about in the Meraki presentation, E-rate funds are eligible for technical support, monitoring of internal broadband services, configuration assistance, and security patches, bug fixes, and software updates. So really all of the different components that go into properly managing and maintaining those internal broadband services. And from a Peters and Associates perspective, what do we do and how are we helping other districts to manage these internal broadband services? We of course provide 24/7 support. So those of you that have worked with us on the support desk know we've got 3 tiers of support access. This streams all the way up to our engineers that are in the field deploying these things that understand the ins and outs of Meraki and working with it and managing it. We provide remote and on-site engineering support. And of course, we are a Cisco Meraki premier partner. So we have that relationship. We are very familiar with them, trust their solution, and know how to support it. From a monitoring perspective, health performance monitoring and alerting using some of our typical managed services software, but we also have some advanced software able to work with some of the stuff that Rachel showed in the Meraki dashboard as well, some really cool things for diagnosing and troubleshooting internal broadband performance and digging into any network bottlenecks and things like that. Peters and Associates provides those monitoring and support services. And then lastly is patching. We do have formalized patch management programs, and specifically as it relates to internal broadband services, providing quarterly patching, making sure that patches from Meraki and from the vendor are applied in a timely fashion, as well as any emergency out-of-band patches, which I think, as we know, are rare, but when they are released are absolutely critical to being implemented quickly so that they cannot be exploited by bad actors. And so Peters and Associates provides patching services. These are really the 3 areas that we support within the managed internal broadband services space, where we assist E-rate customers. There are a host of other things that we do on the support and managed services side, but I really wanted today to focus on what we're doing in this space. If you'd like to have a conversation around this and how it more thoroughly relates to your district and your needs and locations and all of that stuff, happy to build a plan for you that looks specifically at that. And that's it. My section was really quick, and I know we're coming up on time here. So with that, Scott, I'll throw it back to you, I think, to go ahead and introduce Tim for the last leg.
Sounds great. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, so where do you go from here? How do you figure out, how do you meet your challenges in your school districts and your school? How do you provide the access that's needed? How do you provide the best experience you can? How do you best utilize the funding that you have? When do you spend it? What's the biggest priority? So Tim, why don't you fill in those gaps for us?
Sure. So I'm Tim Homan, work for Peters and Associates. In my previous life, I worked for K-12 for 25 plus years. So I have a little background in technology in the K-12 environment. And so I just want to talk a little bit about, getting started. When we we're having conversations around this presentation, my comment was one-to-one and hybrid learning is here to stay, and it is the future. COVID kind of pushed us into it, but that's where we were headed already. And your network at school is going to have to be ready to handle all this equipment. So how can we help? We can do an assessment. We can look at your security through vulnerability scans. We can assess your firewall, your routers and switches, access points. We can take it further. We can look at other things in your network. Your servers have an Active Directory environment. We can review your email. Things that run in a virtual environment, we can assess that as well. You really need to have a basis to plan this E-rate money for the next 5 years, and that's really something we can help you do. So what will this include? This is going to be documenting all the information that we find. So it's going to start with an inventory. We're going to identify your switches, routers, servers, storage on the network, wireless access points. It's a big undertaking to have your hands wrapped around all this. The question is, what is a network assessment and why do I need one, right? It's just a detailed report to help you get a handle on your environment so that you can plan the next 5 years. And why is this important? I just went back and looked at all the different wireless standards that we've had, and it turns out about every 4 to 5 years, there's a new one. So that means if you have put wireless access points in the last 4 to 5 years, they're due to be replaced. Some people may just be happy that they've got their wireless deployed, but that's not enough because they're going to be out of date. And it's the same thing with your network equipment. So because the technology's changed so fast, there are new threats identified. Firewalls go through that same life cycle. So every 3 to 5 years, they've just evolved to a point where you just don't have the capability that you had. So your firewall is going to need to be replaced every 3 to 5 years. And your switches should be replaced with the cabling that you have and your access points. So your access points are 4 to 5 years old, they need to be replaced. Well, chances are that the switches they're connecting to also need to be replaced. And it's very possible that the wires that go between them also will need to be replaced. And I was interested to find out that the recommendation for cabling, it's every 5 to 10 years, your cabling needs to be replaced. So I didn't want to spend a lot of time. We're right at the top of the hour. These are things that we can do as a company to help your school be prepared and have a plan in place when you go to file your E-rate forms to take advantage of that money that's out there. So,
Jim, you familiar with a lot of schools replacing their cabling every 5 years?
I am not.
Every 10 years? I don't even know if I'm
No.
familiar with that one.
Right, and the standard there changes as well. So, it was Cat 5, then Cat 6, and so, as the technology changes, your old cables won't be capable of, performing in that new environment.
Yeah, it's a great point. And, even speaking of that, you can't just be upgrading for the sake of upgrading. So if there's a point where, hey, I'm looking at AC access points, but, my cable infrastructure won't even get a benefit from it, why are we doing that? Maybe we need to prioritize the funding for the cabling. So just some of the things, some of the benefits from working from, with us can help identify, some of those areas. Going back again to that long-term plan, that prioritization, what's the best bang for your buck, all those great ideas. So we are a little bit past 1 o'clock, not too bad. We're going to hang out here for Q&A. Sam, what's our best method for fielding questions here? Are you going to open up a chat box or unmute people's mics? How should we do that?
Yes, if you have any questions, you can just type it in that questions panel that I mentioned, and that'll pop up on our end, and I can ask on your behalf. If there are no, and it doesn't look like there are any questions in the queue right now, so we can hang out for a couple more minutes, and if not, thank you for joining today.